Applied Radical here again. This is just my kind of the stuff I forgot to say, and I remembered as I was getting ready to upload. And again, this is my response to Uziyahuidf's series on Mormon missionaries. This is the third part, so if you haven't seen the other two parts, I'd recommend seeing those first, but you can do whatever you want. So, the one point I realized I had failed to bring up was when he comments on the most likely to convert are those who know less about the Bible than the LDS missionaries, which he puts forward as not being very much. Again, as I mentioned, I think in general, it's pretty clear that the vast majority of the 19-year-old, 20, 21-year-old young men that are out on missions serving the LDS Church are not grand scriptorians. But I think it's important also to point out that this is not a universal trait. And in fact, it ties in quite nicely with what was a common accusation against early Christians, namely that, if you look at Celsus, for example, Celsus, for those who are unaware of who he was one of the earliest of the active anti-Christians in the days of early Christianity. There's an ongoing interchange between Origen, who was a great early Christian apologist, and Celsus. And one of the criticisms, to put it lightly, that Celsus has of Christians is that they are either essentially stupid dupes that don't know any better, or they do know better and they are all just a bunch of evil, conspiring people trying to keep the massive dupes duped. So I think it's really one which should be careful, especially when we look at the nature of revelation, because it is, again, I would ask, if you could put forth a theory that would have God be just, have him not be a respecter of persons, and at the same time inhibit people from receiving revelation in a time when he's made it available to others. Why would God limit salvation only to those who had access to libraries or could learn about textual criticism on online theological forums? But getting again beyond that, he doesn't go in and address also the fact that there are a significant number, definitely not a majority, but there's a good number of individuals that have been very, very well versed either in the scriptures or in the sciences, and there's not a great many of them. In fact, very few, but it's still a significant number of people that have joined the faith, in spite of the fact that they are quite intelligent. And I think it's kind of, I don't think it's entirely dishonest to try and paint with this broad brush that simply because it seems a majority of people who join the LDS Church may not have, may not have the equivalent to some theological seminaries teaching. There are those that do join the LDS Church. And I think it's wrong to discount the fact that does happen. In fact, a great many of the early leaders of the LDS Church were quite well versed in the Bible. I'd also like to present another experience of my own with regard to that. When I was on my mission, it became quite easy, for the most part, to in dialogue with virtually anybody about the subject of religion. You could pick out what they were influenced by, whether it's Pentecostal, Jehovah's Witness, Church of Christ. You could tell in the dialogue things they emphasized, the wording they used, the way they portray things, and many other things. And I felt pretty good throughout my mission at being able to pick out what were some of the more substantial influences in the vast majority of people I came across. He talked about people. He claims, the people, the more they know the Bible, the less likely they would be to become Mormon. And that wasn't what I experienced. In fact, it was quite different. Rather, it was those who had been tied to a certain indoctrination of the Bible were less likely. In fact, the one man that I ran into that joined the church the fastest, that joined our religion the fastest, was a person who had studied the Bible on his own and become quite well versed in it. And he was, as we were teaching him, and before I knew much of his history, I could not detect any of the elements of any of these other sectarian influences. Not everything he was bringing up is the way he talked about the Bible, the way he referenced things in the Bible. He knew the Bible quite well. He knew it very well, actually. And I couldn't pin out any real influences of any major movement or particular denomination or sect. And occasionally we'd even get, a local leader that would, you could tell that they'd been influenced by the local leader. But one interesting thing was on our second visit with this man, he said, in effect, and again, we were speaking in Spanish, but he says, regarding the Book of Mormon, which he started reading, and he literally could not put down. He flew through the Book of Mormon, and he quite enjoyed it. And what he said, when we had another person with us that protested upon hearing the idea of God appearing to Joseph Smith and the Book of Mormon being revealed to Joseph Smith, when this person started kind of freaking out, he actually came and defended us, even though this was only our second time ever visiting. He stood up and defended the Book of Mormon. He said, it hits with the Bible. He says, it aligns with the Bible, is essentially what he said. And again, our dialogue was in Spanish, but that is what he said. And I just wanted to make that important distinction and point out that your claim that, even if it is generally true, the picture that it seems you're trying to paint is not accurate, in my view. And again, I believe this is the end, but I may think of something when I'm posting this.